I'm not bringing the bias here. You are.
What do they do up there? Brainwashing?
Hey, it's not my fault that your team is terrible.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
This is just Giannis. I'm sorry if it hurts. Oh wait, I'm not really sorry.
Put that coffee down.
Can't stop, won't stop. Where the bricks at? I give him that ditty bop. Like, take that, take that, take that.
This is the CJ Sweat Show. We are live and brought to you out of Central Virginia. Thank you for listening and making us a part of your day, whether you are driving around, listening in your car, listening to us at the gym. Always appreciate all of you all tuning in. We are back live, broadcasting another podcast on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. And there's a lot of good things to get to. We've got the NBA playoffs. There's all sorts of NFL stuff going on. We're going to get to... I've got a comparison for Giannis Antetokounmpo, who... This comparison will absolutely blow your mind. And we're going to end today's podcast with another list. So I'm going to rank for you the top 5 most annoying fan bases. That is coming up here at the end of the podcast. But for right now... the situation I want to talk about is the Cleveland Browns. So we have now just completed this past week, OTAs. So OTAs, for those of you who aren't familiar with the inner workings in the NFL, most of you are. They're voluntary workouts and practices teams put on, usually last week of May, first week of June. And there's usually about 9 practices for each team. So we're just now through them. And Odell Beckham Jr. showed up for the first one and then didn't show up for the rest. And a lot of people are out defending Odell Beckham because they're voluntary workouts. And so what I keep hearing is well, OBJ had a right to not go to the workouts. He's a veteran. He had a right. They're voluntary. He has a right to miss the workouts. Just because you have a right to do something doesn't make it right. This is pretty obvious. A boss has a right to fire an employee without reason. Like, literally, you can go look at it. A boss could literally do that, and there's no code, there's no law for that. But that doesn't make it right. A dining customer, if you go into a restaurant, you have a right to not tip your server, even if they provide excellent service. You don't have to leave a tip. Nobody's forcing you. But just because you have a right to do that doesn't make it right. OBJ doesn't have to participate with OTAs. That doesn't make it right. He should be. He's the one who requested a trade with the Giants. He wanted to be traded out of there. If you want a different work environment and you are granted your wish, then the first thing you should do at your new work environment is go out and kill it. You should do everything that you can to ensure that your first year is the best year you've ever had. It should outperform any year from any previous year with that previous company. It shouldn't ever be close. Because you've got to go out and now prove yourself that you were worth making that demand. But I gotta tell you, I think right now, if I'm a Giants fan and I'm sitting over here and I'm watching the Browns, I'm going, boy, it sure feels a whole lot less stressful here, not having that around us anymore. And yes, he's incredibly talented. And nobody's going to argue that talent doesn't have value. But there are certain things you have to do or you should do as an NFL player, even if you aren't legally required. Okay, so these OTAs, they're voluntary, but what that means is the Browns can't fine or suspend you for not participating. It doesn't mean if you don't participate, you're free of receiving any criticism. No, you should participate, but more than that, this shouldn't even be a conversation. Odell should have wanted to be there. ask yourself this if you're a Cleveland fan. Because I understand, like, everybody comes down to the Browns all the time, and you've been bad for so long, and you finally have a glimmer of hope, you're just running with it. I get that. But ask yourself this, Cleveland. If he's not at OTAs, where is he? And what is he doing that is so much more valuable to his career and to his future that he's doing that instead of being at OTAs? I would get it if this were a Nick Foles situation, who, by the way, prayers to Nick Foles and his wife for losing their baby, but I'd get it if it were that and there's a family issue at home. Or I would get it if he was doing something else that I thought, oh wow, that really is going to elevate his career. Or if he was paying for he and Baker to go do some sort of volunteer work, actual volunteer work, like say overseas or in a third world country or something. I would totally be on board with any of that stuff. But I don't know what else he's doing. All I can tell is he's taking this time off to be on Instagram more. We have seen this rodeo before. We've seen the diva wide receiver, but what we've never seen is it work out. Terrell Owens didn't work out. Randy Moss, as much as we wished it would have worked out, and as much as we could argue that he added so much value to the Vikings and the Patriots, he never added a Super Bowl. He never added a Super Bowl. And when Brady needed him most in that Super Bowl against the Giants, where was he? Not available. We've seen this rodeo before with these diva wide receivers, and it never, ever pans out. Odell Beckham is not an exception just because he had one really nice catch 5 years ago and has now put that on his car. A picture of that on his car. It doesn't matter. It's one catch. It's one play. This is the difference between wide receivers and quarterbacks. Is wide receivers make one play and we play the highlight reel over and over and over again. Quarterbacks, we expect to make the same play over and over and over again. That's why quarterbacks have so much more value. But the other thing this spells out is, you can go and read this story. This is from Yahoo Sports. Ben Weinrib. I'm not going to pretend I know how to pronounce his last name. But this story is about Freddie Kitchens. So Freddie Kitchens initially came out during these OTAs and said, okay, this isn't a big deal with Odell Beckham missing. Like, he's fine to do what he wants. He's a veteran. But then he came back out on Friday, just yesterday, and said, sounded like he was fed up, by the way, with OBJ, and said OBJ's missed a lot on the offense. Okay, so which is it? Is it okay for him to miss? Or is it not okay? And listen, as an NFL coach, okay, you can change the way you operate and you can change your mindset. Change is okay. The problem, though, is when you come out and say something is acceptable for your players to do, and then once they do that or they don't do that, whatever it is, you come out and say this is a big problem. It's passive aggressive. Listen, coaching is as much about X's and O's as it is about leadership. And the first real rule of leadership is communicate directly and clearly, not passively. This passive style of leadership, I'm telling you right now, most people don't respond to it, but if you want to know how to get a millennial to not respond, be passive with them. They don't understand it. Odell Beckham, you told him this was okay. Then you came out and changed your mind. You can come out, by the way, as a coach, it's okay to come out and be really, really strict and then ease off. But you can't come out and be really, really relaxed and then try and change the goalpost. That doesn't work. It's just like, as a company, it is so much easier to lower the price on a product than it is to raise the price on a product. Because when you raise the price on a product, you're telling your customers, hey, we're expecting you to pay more for this. When you lower the price on a product, you're telling your customers, hey, we value you, so we're going to expect that, you deserve this reward. When you relax on players, you're telling your players, hey, we trust you. We trust you to make these decisions. But when you come out and you're really relaxed and you're saying, hey, you guys go out and do what you want, and then you come back and you alternate and you switch beliefs and you go really, really strict. Now you're telling your players, hey, I have absolutely zero trust for you. And I've seen this happen before. Pete Carroll did this with Seattle. I think Mike Tomlin did it with Pittsburgh. Where they started off really, really cool, relaxed, trying to design this fun atmosphere. And players initially respond to it really, really well. But then once the coaches start realizing, oh, they're not as committed as I want them to be, and they have to try and reel it in a little bit, that's when they start having issues. Freddie Kitchens has taken that, and he has flip-flopped his mindset over the course of a few days. This demonstrates to me he has absolutely no idea how to lead or be a head coach. Never forget, because this will be a talking point at the end of the year, Freddie Kitchens wasn't desired by anybody as an offensive coordinator. Nobody wanted him as a coordinator. Cleveland hired him as their head coach. The last time that happened was when Jim Zorn was hired by the Redskins. And they did have an early winning streak and ended up being terrible. And then the year after that, Jim Zorn was fired, and Redskin fans, I think, still are rejoicing in that. I don't think this is going to work because I don't think Freddie Kitchens has what it takes, the knowledge or the experience to lead an NFL team. All right, so NBA playoffs, the finals are back tomorrow. I'm going to get to that. I think, by the way, I think something interesting happened on Sunday, and I'm sorry, not Sunday, but Thursday. I went into Thursday's game 1 of the NBA Finals with this mindset of there's one thing that of every other team that's played Golden State has not been able to do. There's one thing. And I wanted to see if Toronto could do it, because if they could, I knew they'd be a real threat. Well, Thursday night, they did, and we're going to get to that next. This is the CJ Sweat Show, and we'll be right back. Back on the CJ Sweat Show. By the way, some of you all don't know this. I'm in a flag football league. We've got our playoffs tomorrow. I'm really excited about that. Should be a lot of fun. So I've been watching these NBA finals, and by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. I gave you guys a great teaser. I am so good at doing that, and I just want to give myself an opportunity for the second week in a row to pat myself on the back because I feel like I deserve it. But, I've been watching these NBA finals, and I think that first game was as good as it's going to get. It was back and forth the entire game. Toronto would take a lead, Golden State would storm right back, and they would tie it up. It was a ton of fun. But the one thing I watched in that game, and I watched Portland and I watched Houston, both of these teams failed to do it. And I watched Cleveland last year, and they did this in game 1, but then after that ending in game 1 where J.R. Smith had the complete mishap on that 3, it completely went away. Okay? I have watched for all of these teams to match the energy level and the attention to detail that Golden State brings to every game. Now, this sounds intangible, but it actually is very tangible. If you watch the 50-50 balls, that is where Golden State wins their ball games. Draymond Green does the dirty work. Klay Thompson gets in it as well. We've seen Steph Curry win 50-50 balls. We've seen him get a rebound coming right through LeBron James in the finals a couple years ago. That is why Golden State wins the way that they do. But Thursday night, we watched Toronto go toe-to-toe with them on energy level and attention to detail. And yes, Toronto hit a lot of lucky shots, and they're not going to sink those in game 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Okay? But the 50-50 balls, that is where I thought Toronto really surprised me. And that's why I think they are a real threat to beat Golden State. Every championship team has one thing. They all have one all-star. Okay, so we know LeBron James. We know, when I say all-star, I don't mean like made the all-star team. Like Kemba Walker would not qualify. I'm talking like a superstar, top 5 player in the league. So like we've seen LeBron do it. We've seen Steph Curry do it. Every single championship team has a top 5 player in the league. Toronto has Kawhi Leonard. They have not had a top 5 player in the league ever before as far as I'm concerned. They've now got Kawhi. Every single championship team has one thing, a really, really smart coach who is able to adjust on the fly. Nick Nurse, he's got to be coach of the year. I have not seen a coach willing to make as many adjustments as he does with his man-to-man matchups, and it is, I think, the biggest reason Toronto is as good as they are defensively. And I know Kawhi's a great defender, but I think Nick Nurse's adjustments just elevate all of the defense that Toronto plays. So they all have a great young coach. And the other thing they do really, really well is they fight harder, or at least to the equal level of their opposition. So if you go back to when Cleveland beat Golden State, okay, Cleveland got under Draymond's skin. LeBron constantly was fighting for those 50-50 balls. Kyrie Irving, every single offensive possession he took seriously. They were matching Golden State's energy level. Last year, they didn't. Last year when they played LeBron, first game they did. Okay, first game they came out and it was back and forth the whole game. It came down to that J.R. Smith shot, and he didn't know that they needed a 3, and he took the 2 instead. Okay, after that game, and then there was a missed call later on. Shortly before that. After that game, it was so emotional that I think the emotional toll just took out any potential energy level that was inside of the Cavaliers locker room. And you noticed it game 2 right away. You noticed right away game 2 was all Golden State. Okay. But this is different. Toronto Thursday night matched Golden State's energy level and won. I felt like they got the big calls. I felt like Golden State left that game beat up. Andre Iguodala, injured again. Draymond, frustrated again. Klay Thompson, not particularly great in stretches of the game. I think there were a lot of moments in that game where Golden State felt very, very frustrated. They were not able to get clean shots off. And I think they go in now to practices for game 2, and what is in the back of their mind is all of those missed shots and missed opportunities, and now another injury on the roster, and there's still no KD. Listen, Toronto has to take game 2 in my mind to be able to win this series, but I think there is a much stronger potential for Toronto to pull off this upset than I originally believed. Here's the other thing I wanted to get to while we're on the NBA. So I saw this tweeted out the other day by Clay Travis. Actually, I guess it was yesterday. But the NBA Finals ratings down 18% compared to Game 1 last year. It is also a 10-year low for Game 1. Playoffs total are down 14% for the year. Now, we can come up with a lot of reasons for why this is. But I'm going to give you one big one, and you will never, ever hear another media member or NBA reporter say this. Adam Silver is the worst commissioner in all of sports, and it's clear as day. Here are 4 things that have occurred in just the past year that either Adam Silver has done or allowed to be done. Okay, 1, he has sat back and allowed tanking to happen. There's been absolutely no fines. There's been no rule changes besides modifying the lottery sort of to prevent tanking. This year, we had like 6 teams post All-Star break not even trying. They were promoting guys from the G League who you've never heard of and giving them 25, 30 minutes a game just to ensure they would lose. It was the race to get Zion. And listen, the NBA has never been about the bottom third of the league, kind of like the NFL is about the entirety of the league. But when you have 1/3 of your league trying to lose, or at least not trying to win, it really creates a bad brand. And listen, David Stern would have never, ever allowed for this. Adam Silver has almost embraced it, and it's been really, really weird. Number 2, he allowed the Pelicans, a team owned by NFL owners, they are owned by the Saints owners, to manipulate the biggest brand in the league and then punished Magic Johnson, of all people, for tampering. The fact that the Pelicans were allowed to go into trade negotiations and reportedly, and this has been well sourced, by the way, by a number of reporters, they had no intentions of trading Anthony Davis to LA this year. The fact that they were allowed to go into trade negotiations with that mindset and they were able to manipulate the Lakers and completely screw up the fabric in that locker room, that is absolutely absurd. The Pelicans should have been punished. They should have had a draft pick taken away from them. And instead, Adam Silver punished Magic Johnson because Magic Johnson went on a talk show and talked briefly about Anthony Davis. When asked about him, by the way. That to me is maybe the most absurd thing I have seen in a really, really long time from a commissioner. Number 3, the NBA now publishes a report of calls that the refs missed for each game. This to me, with all the complaining that we've had about refs, and when you look at TVs and all the camera angles we get, you're going to notice more missed calls. People keep thinking, well, reffing has gotten so much worse. No, the camera angles have gotten so much better that now you're just able to see everything. Reffing's always been like this. Like, people didn't just randomly get stupid, okay? Like, we as a society didn't just randomly get dumber. What happened is we've got more camera angles, we've got more rules, we've got replay now, and replay, instead of clarifying things, has actually confused us more. And now the NBA is publishing a report about how many calls the refs have missed each game. That's terrible. That shouldn't be happening. The NFL would never, ever do that. You are supposed to protect your referees, not expose them. That's a terrible move by Adam Silver. And number 4, and this to me is the biggest one as to why the ratings are down, is he has allowed flopping to occur all year. I think a lot of people watched the Rockets play during these NBA playoffs because they wanted to see James Harden. And it's just a complete bore. I mean, seriously, every single time down the floor, James Harden is trying to draw contact. And what's worse is other players are now emulating this. They're taking shots a full foot behind the three-point line, landing inside the three-point line in order to make contact with the defender that wasn't really even in the picture to begin with, just so they can draw a foul. It has like the NBA right now looks ugly. It does not look good. Back when Jordan played, it at least looked fluid and it looked fun. And when fouls happened, it was because a guy got completely hacked, not because his fingertip got touched while trying to take a jump shot. And Adam Silver hasn't done anything, not one thing, to prevent flopping. The thing I love about the NFL is they will come out and they won't implement a rule change before the Super Bowl. And it would have been a rule that had been allowed all year long. So you'll be playing by this one set of rules all year. Then the NFL will come out and say, you know what? We've got to fix this. And then they fix it. The NBA, Adam Silver has just sat back and he's allowed flopping. He's allowed tanking. He allowed the Pelicans to do what they did. It's absolutely embarrassing. The reason the NBA ratings are down is because he has completely screwed up this league. Listen, say what you want about Roger Goodell, but the NFL ratings, even while TV ratings on just about every program and every show are down, NFL ratings are going back up. They've somehow gone higher than they were before, what some people thought would have never been possible. The NBA ratings are going down by staggering numbers. Nobody's losing 18%. That's absolutely absurd, and I think it comes back to Adam Silver and his complete mismanagement of the league. So I was thinking about this earlier, and I've been trying to think about, like, Giannis. Like, Giannis feels like a unicorn in that everybody thinks, like, we've never seen this before. And for the most part, I've agreed with people. Like, I can't remember a player 7'1" who ran the court as quickly as he does, has those super long arms, and then has this just unstoppable Euro step. Like, I've tried to figure comparisons, and it's been tough. Well, I've got it now. I have figured out the perfect comparison for Giannis Antetokounmpo. And here it is. Giannis is Dirk Nowitzki 2.0. And when it hit me, it felt so obvious. Okay, here's the first thing. Both are European. And I don't mean that because of, like, they both come from Europe. I mean that because their games are both influenced by the European style of play, which is the Euro step. It's more fluid. It's more jazzy. It's not like it is here where you've got, LeBron James, who's more of a semi-truck just trying to drive the lane and dunk on you, and you've got James Harden trying to draw fouls. No. This is more fluid, it's more fun, it's more artistic. They both have that style into their game. Secondly, they both have one unarguable move. Remember Dirk had that fadeaway shot and nobody could defend it. Like, it didn't matter who was guarding him. I remember watching Dallas play Miami in the finals the first year LeBron and Wade were together. And they tried matching LeBron up one-on-one with Dirk, and he had no chance to defend that shot. At the time, LeBron was far and away the best defender in the league, and he couldn't stop it. Giannis has his Euro step. How do you stop a Euro step when a player is 7'1", has incredible ball handling skills, can move that quickly, and has insanely long arms? You don't. There is no stopping that. They both got that one undefendable move. I think it's that unarguable move. I meant undefendable move. Or unguardable move. Thirdly, they both play in an undesirable free agent destination. So I mentioned this a week ago. Like, I don't see... The reason I think Giannis is limited over these next few years is what NBA free agent, what high-end NBA free agent goes to Milwaukee? I don't foresee one doing that. Quite frankly, I'm surprised Kyrie is even entertaining going to Brooklyn, and he's from New Jersey, and Brooklyn is right outside of New York. That's a big city. I don't know that any free agent is going to go into Milwaukee to play with Giannis. The same way, no star free agent went into Dallas to play with Dirk. He couldn't get one, and Mark Cuban tried year in and year out to get more free agents to come in and play with Dirk. He couldn't do it. They had to find role players that were capable of playing around Dirk, and that's what Milwaukee is doing with Giannis and will continue to have to do with Giannis. Neither one of these guys, by the way, really want to embrace mobility. Like, Giannis, I don't think is ever going to leave Milwaukee. He just doesn't seem to have the temperament, and Dirk never wanted to leave Dallas. So they're both in undesirable free agent destinations, and neither one of them are embracing mobility. Lastly, they're both adored by basketball purists. I cannot find one basketball writer that has ever written anything negative about Giannis or Dirk Nowitzki. And I think this comes back to the art that you can see in their game. And if I could compare this to anything, imagine taking a foodie, somebody who's really, really into food, out to a restaurant, and you ask them, hey, what do you think I should get? And they're like, oh, get the squid's eye with the mushroom sauce with Hershey Kiss infused shrimp. You'd be like, okay, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And everybody else at the table is like, yeah, I'll have a steak or a chicken parm. Because that's what most people like. But when you spend so much time around one activity, you begin to embrace and appreciate it differently than everybody else. So just like foodies appreciate food differently than the rest of us, I think basketball purists appreciate Giannis and Dirk in a different fashion than the rest of us do. Giannis is Dirk Nowitzki 2.0. I don't know that Giannis ever wins a title. Dirk only ever won one, only ever appeared in one. But Giannis is awfully good. He's going to be a star in this league for the next several years, just like Dirk was. I think those two are incredibly comparable. All right. So I said I was going to end the show with something. This is a topic I really was excited to do. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while. So what I've put together is most annoying fan bases in sports. Okay, so we're going to go 5 through 1. And I'm going to tell you, I've got friends who I know listen to this podcast who are fans of all of these teams. Okay, you're going to be upset with me. And that's okay. I've even got one of my own teams, a beloved team of mine, on this list. So there is no bias in putting together this list. This is complete 100% brutal honesty, which is what I've always chased with this podcast. So in doing so, my friends, here are the top 5, and maybe we need some background music for this. Do I have anything here? I don't know that I have anything. Yeah, I don't think I have any good background music for this. Really need some good background music for this segment. But, I don't think there's... All right, I'll tell you what. Here's what we're going to do for our background music. Because we're talking about the 5 most annoying fan bases in sports. We're going to play the tune in the background here to Humble by Kendrick Lamar. Because all of you, if your fan base is on this list of 5, you need to be more humble. So number 5, the music in the background. The Pittsburgh Steelers. 2 words. The Towels. The one game I will never forget is the Redskins and Steelers night before the 2008 election. It was in D.C. 60% Steeler fans. By the way, terrible move. It was a Monday night. Why in the world did the NFL schedule a team based in Washington, D.C. to play the night before the presidential elections of 2008? Anyways, those stupid towels were everywhere. But more than the towels, Steelers fans love to throw around the phrase, Patriots are cheaters. They love those catchphrases. But they'll throw them around while refusing to acknowledge that Pittsburgh spent the 70s and 80s when nearly half the team was caught using steroids. Yet they're wanting to call Patriots cheaters. Pittsburgh Steelers number 5. Number 4 most annoying fan base. Kentucky basketball. 3 words. Big Blue Nation. More like Big Blue State, and the rest of us are just going to do our own thing. We don't care. I'm fairly certain most Kentucky fans think they've invented basketball and have some ownership of the Final Four. But in reality, the past 15 years, Villanova, UNC, Duke, UConn, and Florida have had more success. Put away your Big Blue Nation. Number 3. Duke basketball. Yes, I'm a big Duke fan. But like most Duke fans literally have no connection to the school. They just decided to pick a team one day and they fell on Duke. Hooray! Duke fans have this mentality that there's simply no other capable coach in the country. I'm a huge Coach K fan. But it's okay to admit that he gets outcoached occasionally. And that one and done system, not viable long term. Duke number 3. Number 2. Ohio State football. From the OHIO chants to the defending Urban Meyer stuff to attempting to delete M from the alphabet simply because it's the first letter of a state, this fan base is absolutely unbearable. Literally, they all defended a coach who assaulted his wife because football, I don't think most fans grasp that there's an entire world outside of the small city that is Columbus. Ohio State number 2. And number 1, Alabama football. Good Lord, I cringe every time I hear an Alabama fan go, Roll Tide! Even as they've lost to Clemson in 2 of the last 3 titles, Bama fans refuse to acknowledge that maybe other schools are good at football too. Like there's other schools that play football. After the kick 6 against Auburn, select fans, not all of them, so this is not... Okay, well it is. You know what? Whatever. Select fans were literally calling for Nick Saban to step down. they do at least back up their obsession with a massive amount of success, which is more than what a couple of teams on here can say. But that doesn't mean the rest of us, the rest of the nation, aren't suffering from the oppressiveness that is Alabama Crimson Tide fans. So that is, there you have it, top 5 most annoying fan bases, 5-1, Pittsburgh Steelers, Kentucky basketball, Duke basketball, Ohio State football, Alabama football. And I'll tell you what, an honorable mention on this list, the Philadelphia Eagles. Good Lord, are these fans absolutely unbearable. And no, I'm not talking about your everyday Philadelphia Eagle fan that just lives down the neighborhood. They're not as unbearable, although they did win one Super Bowl and then tried to lecture the rest of the league on how to win Super Bowls. That was a little unbearable, but I'm talking about the fan who grew up in Philly and never moved away and literally goes to the grocery store ready to fight. Philly fans are some of the worst NFL fans. Again, I'm talking about hardcore Philly fans. So they're an honorable mention on this list as well. Thought about putting Golden State on there, but the more I think about it, I can't figure out why we all hate Golden State so much. I mean, yeah, I'm rooting for Toronto too. I want to see Toronto win the finals, not Golden State. But if we're just rooting against Golden State because they've been really, really successful, that doesn't feel right. I don't know. I just don't feel good about that. So I'm not going to put Golden State on there. And I feel like most of those fans are fine. I mean, it's mostly guys who moved out to Silicon Valley and opened up their own, I don't know, social media thing or, web-based company thing. That's all fine. And they're not annoying. I mean, at least nothing in comparison to the rest of these. So I'm not going to put them on there. You actually have to have a real fan base to get on this list. And I just don't think Golden State has a real fan base. I think it's a bunch of guys with money who just decided to buy a bunch of seats. That's what I think it is. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. This is the CJ Sweat Show. Hope you have a good weekend.
But after all I've said, please don't forget. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know.